comes to recycling leftover scraps of meats and vegetables, the most direct approach is a casserole. Essentially, you're just mixing everything up and recooking it, but there are good casseroles and bad casseroles, and downright scary inedible casseroles. Here are some general guidelines for producing a good dish using a wide variety of whatever you have on hand. Unlike most of my videos, though, this is not intended for restaurant customers. Rather, it's the sort of thing you would use to make staff food up in the restaurant.
So in looking through what leftovers I've got a couple of these smoked sausages that are quite good, but there's only a couple of them, not a lot to do with them. I've got some ground beef that is not really a lot you can do with that little amount. I've also got some cooked chicken breast. Again, this kind of thing, and you use whatever meats you've got, whatever you've got handy, it will work just fine on this. I've got about half a kilo of potatoes that I'm going to slice thin and put in water, and I've got about a quarter of a kilo of cabbage. Again, you know, I just happen to have this on hand. I got this end of cabbage, it works fine. I got a tomato here that's starting to dry up. I'll throw that in too. The onion is not scrap. You need an onion for this. The pepper is not technically scrap either. It's just that they're in season right now, and these cost like pennies. They're like almost free. So, you know, in the interest of stretching this out, making a meal out of it, okay, we'll throw in a pepper too. And I got some herbs here, mostly parsley, it looks like, that's also past its prime, but it'll be fine in this. So, first step is start getting some color on the sausage, cut it up, and we're going to develop some good deep flavor in this first. A little bit of vegetable oil to get it started. This is about 200 grams of smoked sausage. This is what we want to see, this coloration on the surface of the sausage. I've got the heat on an 8. Out of 1 to 10, it's on 8. So it's starting to brown pretty well. Now I'm going to add the cabbage in. So also want to develop some flavor on this cabbage, and it's going to be one of those things that's the hardest to cook, to have it be really tender and nice. So I'm going to start the cabbage off cooking before all the rest of it. I'm going to lower the heat down to 7 now too. And while this was browning, I ran the potatoes through a mandolin for a 2mm slice, and now I've got them soaking in some cold water. This will keep them from discoloring, and it'll also make them a little bit crisper in the final dish. After 5 minutes or so, you see the cabbage is starting to get some browning on it too. Make sure you don't burn it, but you do want some actual browning on it. You want that deep, rich flavor. Now I'm going to add the tomato that's cut up and the pepper that's cut up. This will add some moisture, slow down anything from burning, and also get these started to cook, of course. After another couple of minutes here, I'm going to add in that raw beef. Start cooking that in there. Okay, been another couple minutes. The ground meat is definitely cooked, at least browned on the outside. Now I'm going to add the onions. I'm adding the onions last because I want the flavor for them to predominate. I'm also adding that chopped up parsley. And I think there's a little bit of thyme and some other herbs in there. And I'm adding a little garlic in here as well. Obviously not really a leftover item, but yeah, it's cheap enough. We can throw it in to make a cheap meal out of these leftovers. And we're going to stir this around. We're not going to stir this around for too long after the onion goes in. We want to actually keep the integrity of the onion, the strength of the onion in this for the rest of the cooking, because the onion and the potato together is going to be really good. If we cook out all the strength of the onion in this, then it won't be as flavorsome. So I'm just going to cook this for about 2 more minutes, then I'm going to let it cool down some. And what I did here is I just transferred it to the bowl of the food processor. Now I'm going to add that cooked chicken. And by the way, it's about 75 grams of the cooked chicken, about 75 grams of the beef. So that's it's a total of about 350 grams of meat. That's about the right ratio. I'm going to add some black pepper in here. Don't forget that sausage has quite a bit of seasoning in it. And we also added the herbs, so it's going to be seasoned fairly well already. I'm adding half a teaspoon of cayenne to it, and I'm going to add some salt. I might have to test it Actually, I will be testing it later after it's ground a little bit here and see how salty it is. Now, we don't want to puree this. We're not looking for something into a paste, but we want to get these into small, reasonable sized pieces. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, this is about the right texture you want for this. I just tasted it for saltiness. Transferred it to a bowl here to help cool it off. It's still steaming. Don't want it too hot now because we're going to end up cooking the egg instantly if we do that. So I ended up adding about a teaspoon of salt to this, but the exact amount that you add will vary depending on how salty your sausage was and your other ingredients. So I'm going to incorporate one beaten egg into this. Like I said, let it cool down a little bit first, or your egg will just cook instantly and it won't have the overall thickening power that you want. Put this in. And then, secret ingredient time. Something you wouldn't think to add. Add a couple of tablespoons of mayonnaise to this. This will give it more body and it'll round out the flavors, and it cooks nicely too, as you'll see in the end. Also gives it some more moisture, which it's going to need because of the long cooking time. Okay. So now the filling for this is ready. I've drained the potatoes and we can begin assembling it. I often use ceramic dishes for this sort of thing. I'm going to add a metal dish for this. The reason is that the metal will get hotter, and so I'm lubricating the hell out of it with lots of butter. Be really generous with the butter that you put into this. Okay. Doesn't matter. There's clumps of butter. Don't worry about it. That'll be good. We've got our potatoes that were soaked in water. I drained them in a colander. Now I'm just going to layer these all the way down. I've used about half the potatoes. No, it's not a single layer. They're scattered everywhere. That's okay. Don't worry about it. This is leftovers. We're not serving the Queen of England here. We're just making something that's delicious out of what we've got left over. Okay. I'm going to put this in. Smooth it over a bit. And then we're going to do the same thing with the rest of the potatoes on the other side. Just stick it into the end. Just toss them in. That's okay. It doesn't matter. It's all going to cook in the end anyway. It's all going to bubble up. Potatoes are all going to get soft gradually here, and then we'll brown them off at the very end. Okay, this is good. We've got a good solid layer here. Now we're going to wrap this up with some foil. And after an hour and 15 minutes at 190 degrees Celsius, and after you get the foil peeled off, brush on some melted butter, help these brown nicely, and it goes back in the oven. You want the fan assist on. If you have fan assist, use it. If you don't, then just crank up your oven temperature to about 210 Celsius. But the fan assist is the better option of the two. Okay, it's ready. It goes back in the oven. And after about 20 minutes, this is what we get. It's what we're looking for. Now, the key here, of course, is to let this cool down completely. Don't try to cut it while it's still super hot, or it'll just run all over the place. So let it have a good long rest. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.